What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm doing part 4 of my college football predictions, and we've been doing the Pac-12 conference. But let's get into it. Finishing last, I have the Arizona Wildcats. I'm not really high on this team, but they don't really have that much potential this season. They might be able to get a couple upset wins, but I just don't see it happening. I have them going 1-2, and 2-1 in their out-of-conference games, beating North Arizona and UTEP, but then they lose at Mississippi State, and then I do have them losing the rest of the games. Last year they went 5-7, but this year I do think the Pac-12 will be a little bit better, so I got them going 2-10 this year. Finishing 11th, I got Arizona State. This is a team I'm high on most seasons. I was high on them last year. I thought they would at least make a bowl game, but they ended up disappointing me. I have them going 3-9. I have them going 2-1 in their out-of-conference schedule, winning against Southern Utah and Fresno State, but losing against Oregon State. But other than that, there's not much potential for this team that there has been this past couple years. And I just don't see them being better than last season. So I got them going 3-9. Next up, we have Cal. Cal is a pretty solid team, but at the same time, I just feel like the Pac-12 is going to be very solid this year. I do have them beating Arizona State and then beating Northern Texas and Idaho. I mean, if they played with Arizona, they'd probably get the win, but they don't. So I got them sitting at 39, being worse than they were last season. Next up is a team that lost a quarterback to the draft. They went 3-9 last year, but I do think Stanford would be a little bit better this year. I have them going, looks like 2-0. Well, 2-1 in the out-of-conference schedule. They beat Hawaii and Sacramento State. They do lose to Notre Dame, though. I do have them winning a couple conference games against Arizona. I have them getting an upset one against UCLA. UCLA only drops a game, so that's the only reason why. And then I do have them beating Cal. So I got Stanford going 5-7. And I will not be shocked if this team made the bowl game this year. Next team I got up, I have Washington State. I actually really enjoyed watching this team last year. I do think they're a solid team, but the record doesn't really show it. I feel like they could win more games than I have them winning, but at the same time, they play a pretty tough schedule. I have them going 2-1 in the out-of-conference schedule, being Colorado State and Colorado. I feel like those are games that they should easily win. But I do feel like Wisconsin will beat them this year at their place. I'm pretty high on Wisconsin this year, so that's about the only reason why I got Wisconsin winning. I do have them winning some games against Arizona, Arizona State, Stanford, Cal. I do think they could upset a couple games, maybe Oregon State, Colorado. But yeah, this team is definitely a bowl team, but my record might not give them enough credit. Next up, we have the Bruins. They finished 9-3 last year, but I have them going 8-4 this season. I do feel like they take a step back with losing Charbonnet and DTR to the draft. I do think they're still a solid team overall, but I do have them losing against Utah, Oregon State, USC, and I do have them getting upset loss to Stanford. They always seem to have a game where they just don't show up. But I do got them winning against Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Washington State, and then they do go 3-0 in that conference schedule. UCLA is definitely a bowl team, but I feel like they just need a little bit more talent, and they need to replace DTR and Charbonnet. This might surprise some people, but I have Utah up next. Last year they went 9-3. This year I got them going 8-4. I have them ending the season losing 2 of the last 3, losing to Colorado in the last week and losing at Washington. I do have them losing at Oregon State and at USC this year. They do beat Oregon. I feel like they always own Oregon, but there you go. 3-0 in the out of conference. Beat UCLA, beat Cal, and beat Arizona. But this team is definitely better than the record I give them. I do think Utah is actually a Pac-12 contender, but I just feel like the other teams just have a little bit more talent. I do think they could be better than Colorado and Oregon State, but I don't see them really on the level of as Washington and USC. They're on the same level as Oregon, is what I'd say, but the schedule kind of doesn't benefit them since they're on the road and they're tough games. So I got Utah going 8-4. Next up, we have Oregon State that finished 9-3 last year, and I got them finishing 9-3 this year. I do have them starting out the season 8-0, but then I do feel like they will lose at Colorado this season, beat Stanford, and then they lose their last 2 against Washington, and they lose against a rival Oregon since it's at the Duck Stadium. I do feel like Oregon will take that game. Oregon State is a very underrated team in my opinion. I feel like they have a chance to win the Pac-12 as well, but there's just better teams in them in the conference. I do feel like they could drop games to Utah and UCLA, but at the same time, they go 3-0 in their conference schedule. They beat Washington State, they beat Cal, they beat Arizona, they beat Stanford. This team is definitely around like a 7-10 win team this season. You guys can call me crazy, but I am buying into the hype of the Colorado team. Last year they won 11, but as you can see, a lot of changed. I wouldn't be shocked if this team just didn't even make a bowl game whatsoever. But I'm going to be buying into the hype this year. I do feel like they start out the season 3-0 before losing back-to-back games against Oregon and USC. I do feel like they will drop one at UCLA. I feel like that's going to be an upset game where they get upset. But other than that, I'm pretty high on this team this season. They have the talent to win it all. Not win it all, but like win the Pac-12. But they're not going to be there quite yet. I could see them winning literally 6 games, but I could also see them winning 11. So I guess we're just going to find out during the season how good they really are. I mean, it's hard to say because you haven't really seen the new team play, but I got them staying at 9-3 this season. Finishing third, we have the Oregon Ducks. I feel like I picked them to win the Pac-12 every single year, and time again they let me down. But last year they went 9-3. This year I do think Bo Nix will be a lot better, so I have them going 10-2 this season. The only losses are going to be at Washington and at Utah. I feel like Utah kind of owns them. Previously in the last seasons in the Pac-12 championships, they just always found a way to beat Oregon, and then being in Utah kind of gives them the edge. And I do have them losing at Washington. I feel like Penix will have a solid game against Oregon. That was always a good game, though. Penix versus Nix. You never know what way it's going to go. But other than that, I do have them winning the rest of their games. So I have Oregon going 10-2, finishing third in the Pac-12. Speaking of Washington, this is who I have finishing second. I have them winning every single game besides USC. Washington's offense is just so much more talented than the other ones. I do feel like their defense might take a step up this season. I remember literally just 2 years ago they stunk, and then Michael Penix switched over, transferred from Indiana, and Washington kind of just took off. I'm very high on Washington this year. I don't want to be shocked if they made the playoffs, because I do feel like they have a really good chance at winning the Pac-12. I mean, I put them in the Pac-12 championship, so they have a really good chance at winning that. But other than that, Washington's a team to look out for this season. Finishing first, I got USC. I do have them going 11-1. I do feel like they do lose at Oregon in week 11, but all in all, it doesn't matter because they got some good wins over Utah, Notre Dame, Colorado, UCLA. They did get kind of lucky in terms of scheduling because their out-of-conference schedule was kind of weak. I mean, Notre Dame's a rival, so I don't really count that as much, but they got San Jose State and Nevada. But other than that, USC versus Washington is what I'm going to be setting up for the Pac-12 championship. And in the Pac-12 championship, I do feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go with the Trojans winning the Pac-12 41-38 over Washington. And USC could get that playoff spot. I guess we're going to find out soon. Just to recap my standings, I have USC finishing first, Washington finishing second, Oregon third, Colorado fourth, Oregon State fifth, Utah sixth, UCLA seventh, Washington State eighth, Stanford ninth, and I feel like I made a mistake in the idea. I have Arizona State. Wait, no, my bad. Cal 10, Arizona State 11, and then finishing last in the Pac-12, I have Arizona. Comment down below who you think like the sleepers of the conference are, and who you have winning the Pac-12. My next video will be the Big Ten, but until then, peace out.